You are listening to Whistle Stop Politics, written by Edward Segal, narrated by Eric Anaya. Praise for Whistle Stop Politics. In 52 years of journalism, I never knew what it was like to travel on a campaign train or bus until Whistle Stop Politics. Reading it, I now feel as if I had had those experiences. The history, the drama, the proximity, the uncertainty, the photos, even the old cartoons. A great job by Edward Segal. Bob Woodward, associate editor of The Washington Post and author of 15 #1 New York Times best-selling books. To William Jennings Bryan, Theodore Roosevelt, Harry S. Truman, and the hundreds of other politicians who followed their whistle-stopping examples, and reporters Mary McRory, Merriman Smith, Richard L. Strout, and their colleagues who covered candidates on the campaign trail. Forward. Edward Segal's massive history of the whistle-stop campaign in politics is an exhaustive account of this particularly American phenomenon. It effectively demonstrates the role played by working journalists in bringing to the public the views of the presidents and other politicians when the press had extraordinary access to them as daily traveling companions on the campaign trail. The author has devoted a huge period of time to recording this vivid history from William Henry Harrison through Joe Biden, enriching the public with knowledge for all to read. Segal's impressive narrative reflects a comprehension of the role of the whistle-stop trains and buses in educating American voters about the process of presidential elections. Never before has the whistle-stop campaign been explained by a scholar of the world's greatest enduring democratic process. Jules Whitcover, veteran Washington, D.C. correspondent, award-winning reporter, former political columnist for the Baltimore Sun, and author of 85 Days, the Last Campaign of Robert Kennedy. Introduction. You may not believe this, Lyndon, but there are still a hell of a lot of people in this country who don't know where the airport is, but they damn sure know where the depot is, and if you let them know you're coming, they'll be down and listen to you. President Harry S. Truman's advice to Lyndon Johnson. We noticed in one of Amtrak's old publicity brochures that they said when presidential candidates wanted to get somewhere quickly, they would take an aeroplane, but when they want to make a statement, they would take a train. Ryan Cooper, executive producer, CNN International. An American Invention. The role whistle-stop campaign trains have played in our elections evolved along with how Americans travel and communicate. The 1930s, 40s, and 50s are regarded by some as the golden age of campaign trains. In fact, my research shows that more politicians campaigned by train in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and 90s than in those earlier decades. At least 19 politicians are known to have campaigned by train between 2000 and 2022. The earlier train trips could last for weeks at a time and cover thousands of miles. The more recent railroad tours were usually conducted over several days or hours, or a few hundred miles. In the 1950s, candidates seeking national office began to rely more on planes than trains. The introduction of more efficient ways to reach and communicate with people eventually forced cross-country campaign train tours to take a back seat to television, jet planes, and social media as major ways to help connect with voters. Many candidates credited their victories to their train trips, while some journalists saw the tactic as a factor in their election. Before embarking on his underdog presidential campaign train tour in 1948, President Harry Truman told two members of Congress, "I'm going to make it a rip-snorting back-platform campaign to what Ohio Republican Senator Robert Taft calls all the whistle stops, but I call them the heart of America. When they count the whistle stops votes, Taft may be in for a big surprise. I think the whistle stops will make the difference between victory and defeat." My one-man crusade took effect, Truman recalled later. The people responded with increasing enthusiasm as the day of election neared. I never doubted that they would vote for me. In a letter reflecting on the experience, George McGovern, although he failed in his 1972 race for the White House, said his train trips helped win two primary states, California and Nebraska.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?